Hi,
We're back.
we are back. I'm Jess. I own Vintage 5 Botanicals.
I'm Donna, and I have Of Earth and Alchemy.
And together we are
Twisted Hazel Coven. Because we're slightly twisted.
Yeah.
Yes.
And as we talked about last week, THC, Donna.
Yes. It's THC, yes. And it's just all part of our charm. So
Yeah.
here we are.
So last week we talked about moon phases, and this week we thought we would talk about moon circles.
Yes.
And they seem to intertwine a bit. And
Yes.
we
Or
did
creating moon circle and
yes,
things that you
and
can
kind of
do with that.
explaining what they are. So,
Yes.
okay.
And we're excited about that because we
Yes.
kind of miss having ours. We used to have one with, I don't know, how many were there? Seven? Something like that? Yeah, I think
it was seven.
7 or 8 of us, yeah. And we just life took over and COVID came and we just kind of stopped because of that and never started. But
It really was. I think COVID really put a damper in that.
Yeah,
So.
and it's a neat thing. It's a wonderful thing to do, and with a bonding experience with other women, and so we both kind of wanted to encourage everybody to do that. And
Hey, did you know we've been talking for 7,000,000?
wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, I gotta start that over.
No wonder I'm
I'm
parched.
gonna laugh that. Reset. Yeah, it really was a beautiful thing, and I think so. Let's talk about what is a moon circle.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are formal and informal ones. We were in an informal
Yes.
one, where you would get like-minded women together that want to share. Really, it could be a formalized one where you have more ceremonies and rituals that you're
Yes.
doing, which I think would be nice next round to
Yes.
have a little more formality to it.
Yes, and I always thought, well, let's start off too with, like Jess said, like-minded. Like-minded and exactly alike are two totally different things, and that is not what most goddess religions and things are about. It's we want to accept everybody. That we were very different. We were a whole
all
bunch of
very
very different women. I think we all had an earth base to us, but
There were two green witches,
Mhm.
Wiccan, Buddhist, agnostic, I think was
yes,
one.
yes.
And I don't remember what the other two, and I don't know that
And-
they were ready to define what they were.
Exactly,
either.
exactly,
And that
yes,
was, they
yes.
were more there for educating and not feeling religious, but
Right.
feeling spiritual and
Right.
figuring out what that meant.
Right.
So.
And you may, you get a bunch of people together, and unfortunately sometimes you get a bunch of women together. I think we've all been in a workplace that's had this, and things don't always go so smoothly.
Yeah.
And you may not exactly feel a bond or like everyone in your group, but you also have to remember that they've been led to that group for a reason, whether it's to teach you something, to teach them something, or both. So, if you find yourself in a group and you're not, liking everybody that's there, or you're not bonding with everybody that's there.
Not to
it's
say
okay.
that's what happened with our first group, but just to throw it out there
accept
for
that, yeah.
Yeah.
So just accept that
you're all there for a common purpose.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, and the glory of everybody being different just
Yeah.
kind of goes right along with it.
I think it's a good opportunity for you to oh, the cat and the dog. It's okay. It is literally a menagerie over here, and the donkey was braying a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
But it's a good
We'll
opportunity.
put that one in a blooper for you.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a good way for you to find commonality between people you may not think that you
Exactly,
would have
yes.
a commonality.
Yes,
So.
exactly. And like I said, I feel like we can always learn from each other. And it may be them learning from you, you learning from them, but there's always a reason that I think we're all together.
So I think, in a more formal one, you would start out with, okay, so this will be a good time to show you this book. The first book I read on moon circles was very basic. It was like, I don't know, 90 pages. It was small. And let's see if I can pull it up and show you here. And this one just gave you like a basic runabout. Of course, down here. I don't know if you can see that. It's called literally Moon Circle. I read that one. It was a little paperback. Now, I will say, after I read it, I did not take away all of that and think that all resonated with me. Maybe it would resonate totally with somebody else. But I think that's just, again, the beauty of pagan practice is that you can read and educate and be like, I don't agree with that. So,
Doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It's just that person's path.
But this person had said, like, if you were in a more formal setting, starting out with like not a moment of silence, but like everybody gets their chitter chatter and their greetings out in the parking lot, and then you have like a sacred processional to a space. So then they would do like a quiet walk down to a bonfire, and then every month, and then you would sit and you would have some sort of circle that you would create and have a more formal ritual at the beginning.
Yes, and I like the aspect of the formal part, and I think, at one time we did a more formal. We did a release. We did a formal release. I think we did a formal release ceremony, and and I think there's a lot to be said for that, but it doesn't have to be done all the time. I also like the idea of having like a different person lead it each time, and not really dictate what we do, but kind of say, hey, this is what I thought would be nice for us to do. And that may involve something formal, a formal ritual, formal ceremony, and it may not.
And we did ours based around the full moon, which I think is fairly common, but you really could do it around the new moon if you wanted. It just be sort of what your group feels that you want to vibe with, right?
Yeah, and you could change it all the time. You can also change it depending on what everybody's needs are. You can also, if there's somebody in the group that's experiencing something, traumatic or something, you can change it based on that, because you're all there as a healing.
You could do it as a sharing session too. You could have your formal where you go and it's sort of like this quiet processional to your sacred spot, then you open your circle, and then maybe you have an informal part of your arrangement where you sit and share about what's going on too, because the whole idea is that you're supporting other women.
Yes, and I feel like we did that a whole lot. I mean, I know I shared things at our moon circle that like I would not have been, number one, comfortable sharing with anybody else. I would not just put it out there for the general public. It was just a safe space, and we would go around and talk about our feelings on a lot of things.
And I think that it was understood that like this stayed, like it wasn't and like anything that was shared, it was personal, so it wasn't meant to be like shared at your next girls' night with somebody else. It was like it was a sacred thing.
It was very sacred. Yes,
in a way to share and not feel judged. Say that you could say what you wanted to say, or if you had questions, you could pose them to the group of like, how would I go about handling that, or I don't know.
Right. Yes. And we did a lot of that too. Yes. How would you handle this? I remember at one point, I think you're okay with, because I think we've talked about this. There was something happening at the kids' school or something with someone that found out, that you were a witch or that you were into witchcraft, and then, how do I handle that? And it was a great place to talk about that and, get everybody's opinion on that. So
yes, and that was just only an issue, not that I hide it, but that was only an issue because that person had strong opinions about it. But they were a child's educator, so it really wasn't. It was an interesting dynamic.
Yes,
so
it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a great opportunity to bond with other people and to share practice too, so that like, okay, well, this is how I'm practicing now, but I don't know everything. Teach me what you know.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think like topics, you could actually tailor like a whole meeting sometimes around a certain topic, like elements. What elements do you ladies work with? What is your favorite element to work with? Do you work with elements at all? How and then if somebody that doesn't, you can learn from that. So different topics for each thing.
We did one night where like Donna brought stones and charms and things, and then I picked a bunch of homegrown herbs, and then Donna taught about the crystals and the necklace, the jewelry making, and then I taught about the herbs, and then we did homemade smudge sticks, and we did that, and everybody's turned out different. But it was like we didn't really do a formal thing that night, other than just that was like our thing. We did like a make and take night, and we all sat around and learned a skill. And
and I think another thing that we did that I loved too is that we always had like a sort of an informal altar in the middle of the table, and we were all invited to bring like a sacred stone or crystal or something. It didn't even have to be that. Photograph. It could be something off of your altar, something of a historic piece from your family, something that means a lot, something that's just very spiritual or for you, and we would place those on the altar. And we didn't really necessarily always do a formal acknowledgement, but I do think that that's a nice touch to kind of, because you're kind of charging those things and infusing them with the power of all of these women around you and the energy of all of these women that are with you. There's just, once you do that and you lock hands with a bunch of women who are like-minded, you'll feel it, and you'll just know that it's something it's life-changing. And
and it's not necessarily, like you said, like-minded doesn't mean the same views. It really just means that you're all curious about the same sort of thing, and like you all wanting to learn and share from each other. So, and I think it opens your eyes to stuff outside of what you would normally gravitate to on your own. You get to learn about, maybe you haven't considered the idea of reincarnation, and then you sit there and listen to somebody explain their views on it. So now it's just a sharing, taking and sharing. And
and I mean, I know I think we were kind of all doing it at that point. I know I one of the things I shared was one of my most significant past life experiences, and because that's not something that I would just share with anybody. And it's very nice to be able to share that with people, because you can't always, because people do look at you and go, oh my gosh, and I try to get over that kind of thing, but people
call her off, put her in the hospital.
Yeah, let's call the white coats. So it's a safe place to talk about things like that
outside of judgment.
Exactly. And I love that.
I do too. And I think even that little altar was very cute. You could bring
anything,
something you found in nature, or a new crystal, or like, I think even during that time, I remember bringing a photograph, and I can only think it had to have been my grandmother, because I'm pretty sure my grandmother died during Moon Circle days. So then I had an old photograph of her. So like, you can bring something that like you just it doesn't have to be weighing. It can be a happy thing that you want to add, like a positive. It can be something that you want to talk about or related to, or it can be something positive you want to bring to the circle too.
Exactly.
So
yeah, I love those things. And we've also done them inside and outside. It doesn't, in the winter months and stuff, we were inside. You can do them outside, and of course, always.
A lot of times it's advised to do it outside.
Yeah, being outside, and fire, water, whatever, bare feet on the ground. Again, just a powerful thing. But not everybody can do that in the winter. We're not always in
I think that's how they get. But now they make those urban campfires. Have you seen them?
Yeah,
They're like the little concrete vessels that you can stick on a patio. So like, the idea would be
very easy.
You would want to have some sort of elemental,
even a small chimney, something.
And that's why a lot of times when you read about formal stuff, they suggest a bonfire or something, because you're bringing in that elemental fire.
Yeah.
And
I think it is a good idea to, like, if you're forming, to have sort of. We don't want it to sound like it's a business or something. Sort of like a mission statement, just so when you're bringing people in, or you're inviting people to your moon circle, and that's the way that you'll do it. People don't just find out about this. You'll be inviting people to your moon circle. I think it's a good idea to sort of have some sort of a mission statement or idea, so we kind of know what our ideas are, what we accept, what we don't accept, and as far as I don't mean like accept as far as inclusion, what as you want other people to know what other people within your group believe in to an extent, because you don't want somebody to get there and then go, oh my God, what's going on? I didn't know this is what I was getting into. And of course they can leave at any time, but you want them to know that it's also about them as well. While we may be featuring Jess's beliefs this week or something, next week we could be talking about what you believe in, and you could be teaching us about your belief system and your core beliefs. So I think that's important to have sort of a loose mission statement.
And it's
when you're inviting people.
Nothing about any
it's always
going
to grow and change.
It's all just so that everybody has some sort of level of, not expectation, but understanding. I think is the initial understanding.
And it's almost, I think it's almost like an expectation. Expect but don't expect, because it's always going to change, and it's always going to flow, and that's kind of what keeps it cool and interesting too. But as far like one of the things that we had always, there's nobody there was doing any kind of dark magic, hexing, that kind of stuff. We don't believe in that. We don't do that. And that was one thing that was always, it
was a very light and bright.
That.
Like we always wanted it to be that whole love and light sort of thing. Like
and support, love, light, support, that kind of thing. And we don't believe in those things. So if you want to do that,
that's not to crush on somebody else's beliefs either.
Right,
it's
right.
Just, that's
have
not
at it,
that
but
resonates with us.
It does not. So it's not something that we would want within our circle. So
no,
and like I mean, just loose expectations.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And then it gives you, and then also I think having a general timeline for how you wanted to run it, so that everybody felt fulfilled but not overextended, and
and so everybody gets a time to share
and I think we were at 2 hours we would do, like, all said and done, but we also snack. Well, we like to snack and
had sparkly drinks.
So we had like a whole, outside of just the actual ritual parts of it, or like if we
everybody
did a takeaway or a deal, we all bought like a potluck style thing, and then just a nice way. Like, I do think back on that, and there was a big difference in that group, and it was a great.
Oh God, yeah.
It was a lot of.
I miss it a whole lot.
Me too.
I do. I totally miss it, and I think we're gonna try to do that. Try to form
the pandemic
something again.
really got everybody. I think in a lot of ways it brought people into paganism.
I do. I definitely.
But I think
100%.
in some ways it just broke us up in a social way.
Yes.
So we gotta come back to that. But I would love to do that.
I totally agree.
I'm so itchy with all the allergies.
Oh my.
Try not to touch my face too much.
The bees, the allergies, all this stuff. They're just trying to
You
get
think
to your Dewey
I
skin.
wasn't a green witch or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, would you want to talk about the more, some of the more formal things you did when you were in your 30s?
Yes, and that was I was actually in my 20s. But, yeah. But
She's only in
so
her
that
30s
was-
now. So.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? That's a weird idea. So I belonged to a formal coven when I was in my 20s, and that was definitely and honestly,
You had a
I kind
priestess
of
too,
through the
didn't
year,
you?
huh?
Like a priestess. You
Yes,
had like
yes.
she ran
It
the
was-
group.
yes,
Instead
it
of
was
being
very-
like co-op style.
Yes, it wasn't like there are some that are way more rigid than that, and some that kind of like I think put people off a little bit because they seem a little scary, but they're really not. We did not dance naked or anything. I'm not
Not to
saying that we
say that
couldn't
we
have.
wouldn't.
Yes, not to say that we wouldn't. You know, I've been solitary for so long that I can do things in my backyard, and that's just totally fine. But it was formal, but also had a looseness to it, and I liked that. That appealed to me. We did a lot of the drawing down of the moon. We did a formal opening ceremony. We always cast a circle, and it was not a lot of like sitting and chatting and talking, and it wasn't supportive per se, like sitting and saying how would I do this or not. It was definitely more based around formal things.
I think it's also going to depend on your group of women.
Yes, I do too.
Because,
And how large your group is.
We
too.
all knew each other
Yes.
in ours. So like you're not coming at it as something that you found in the community of like you don't have those personal ties.
Yeah.
Ours we did have personal ties because we knew everybody. So you were a little more chatty and informal.
Right.
So it sort of just depends how you go about forming it, I think.
Well, and having done both, and I thought about this a lot after we were kind of tossing around the idea to do this. I like
bits and pieces of both.
I do. I like bits and pieces of both, and I remember thinking this back then. You have a high priestess, and she usually is, she is kind of
The
lording
MC.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right?
Yeah, she's the ringmaster of the circus. So I kind of like the idea of having someone, and I've toyed with the idea of forming a coven again at some point. But I kind of like the idea of this better, and having like somebody different lead each
like
each
a co-op.
month. Yeah, having somebody different lead each month, and I think that that's
Then everybody feels the same attachment to it as well, and they
Yeah.
feel the same importance to it.
Yes, I
Like,
think
everybody
so.
feels the same investment and the same
Yes.
sort of like I'm just as important to this process as everybody else sitting at this table.
And I think you open yourself up to learning so much more by doing that, and you never know what. I mean, I think most people that are doing what we do, that are into either witchcraft or are Wiccan, pagan, pretty much have an open mind. But I think it's important to maintain your open mind all the time, because you never know when you're going to hear something that's going to resonate. You never want to be so rigid in your beliefs that you can't change. You never know when you're going to hear something
and
from
I don't
somebody
know
else
any
that's
rigid
like
pagans.
me either. That's what I'm saying. I think most people are.
They're willing
But-
to adapt and flow.
But I think people, sometimes women that maybe are just getting into this or just feeling the call to do this, may think that there's, a rigid way, that there's a way to do this, and this is what I believe, and I can't change. This whole, Wiccan, pagan, witchcraft, you should always be learning, changing, and growing. So I love the aspect of thinking that somebody else is going to do it each
I
time,
think-
and the learning aspect of that.
So I'm type A, as we know.
Really?
I know, right? So
I'm not.
I think, like, for me, and I think this can be equated in this scenario, is why I'm going to add this, is like me being type A isn't because I'm actually actually OCD or but it organizes my anxiety. So it's like a way for me to I like things done kind of a certain way because it helps organize anxiety. And I think that sometimes people who are rigid in their beliefs, it's not necessarily because they want to be, it's a way to organize their beliefs. So
Yes.
they're a little more rigid because it organizes
That
it
makes
for
sense.
them in their brain, I think maybe a little
Right.
bit. But I like the idea of the co-op style for the reason too that it does keep everybody feeling equally invested, and the ones that would be more drawn to overshare, they have their time to shine, they have their time
Yes.
to share. So then that makes sure that the ones who maybe are a little more introverted or shy or new or whatever, you still get your time that is
Right.
you get your fair time, and you don't get one group member that's running away with it all,
Right.
and then the others aren't
Comes
getting-
all about that person.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think that that's a nice way to maybe eliminate and equalize the playing ground between introverts and extroverts in a group.
Yes, I do like that.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. No, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yes.
So that everybody feels that they.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If we had our ideal moon circle.
We really
started
did.
out with what? We would, like, if you and I were to form one today, how would you? We would
How would I
out?
start it?
Yeah,
I would definitely utilize what we had. And when I say altar, we had an altar in the middle of the table.
I love that.
And when we first got there, we would all just set our things down, go about our business, get our sparkly drinks, whatever, until we all came around the table. I think I would formalize that a little bit more.
As a joining of a circle.
Yes, and I would actually do. We did not always do like an opening thing, and just a very brief opening, and I would incorporate that into it. I would actually have us all, and that it was just basically a cake stand in the middle of a table with some florals and rosemary and herbs and things, and we would all contribute things, and then we would put our things down, and I think I would just kind of do a little opening blessing, asking whatever moon you're deciding to meet under, to grandmother moon, to please bless us and bring us together and help us feel the power and the energy of each other, that kind of thing, and then formally place our things on the altar, bless our pieces that we have here,
more
and
intentional about how we did it.
Yes,
but I think
and that could be very brief. I mean, but I think it sets a tone, and you are actually calling, you're invoking the goddess, you're invoking the grandmother moon, you're doing some sort of invocation, and there's just power in that.
I think at that point when we were doing that, it was very new for a lot of people who were learning, just getting into that. So like it was very much so a baby step for a lot of people in that group, and that was, it all served a purpose. It was lovely.
Yes, it was.
Yes, so formalize that. I would love to incorporate a fire. Even is just one of those little tabletops for the winter.
Yes.
But we're all country folks. So
well, I think
we could definitely have an outdoor fire.
I think also, I mean, like, so if you're gonna do fire, then you may as well all do all of the elements and incorporate something, and that would be, I think, an interesting part of an opening
little fan
ceremony. Yeah, we could have your feathers for your you could do a fan if you would like. I mean, I am hot all the time, so and our hair would be blowing. We could do we recognize all the elements. Have your fire, your earth, your air, and your water, and have that incorporated as part of that. Yes,
I think so too. I think that would be
that
nice.
is definitely something that I would do that would make it slightly more formal, but also not scary for somebody.
And maybe having like quarters planned out, like you're going to meet with every full moon or every new moon or whatever, and know like this next one, the topic of what is it? Is that a hawk?
Sorry. Squirrel. Hawk.
Like maybe for the next 3 months, like what is your theme for that meeting going to be, so that you all can sort of come to that with like an idea of questions or like things that you've learned or whatever, so it's a little more formal.
You'll be making notes too, okay, I know 2 months from now we're going to be, this is our theme, and this goes right along, I'm gonna have this, and everybody can kind of have their thoughts in a row.
That doesn't mean the whole thing has to center on at that point, but having more of a focus, almost like an educational focus to it. Right?
Yes, I think so.
That'd be nice too.
Yeah.
And then I like the takeaways. Not that you can come up with a takeaway every time, but that's really fun.
And the funny thing is that I think a lot of times we didn't necessarily say like, okay, everybody has to, this just happened. It was like one time you gave us all moon calendars.
Yes.
Sometimes
you see something and you think of that, you think of your group,
great.
and you're like, there's only 6 of us.
It looks like it gives me chills.
It was nice to do that sort of thing. Like, okay,
and it's hard to do with like a lot of people, but if you have a small moon circle, it's great. I mean, I brought stones and gave them to people, and somebody brought plants one time.
Yeah, I would say almost every time
there was
a gift that somebody was like, I thought it was moon circle and I brought it.
And it was never mentioned, hey, somebody bring a gift or expected or anything. It just
very
kind of organically happened. And it was neat, and it was nothing expensive, nothing, crazy. But it meant a lot. It was just something that we took away from our group, and bringing that back home, and something that's been placed on the altar with this group of women was just 2 very special things.
Yeah. And then there was that one time, and I don't want to name names, but that one time that B brought that water from a place that was very close to her soul. And she took all of that stream water that was like crystal clear and purified.
It was mountain water.
And she had been there under the full moon and gathered it and then brought it, and we made moon water spray.
Yes, and it was something that was very sacred to her,
and she brought it and shared it.
I don't know whether I think you bought the bottles, and
Yeah, I
bought
had the
crystals,
bottles
and we had oils and herbs, and just it was something. Yes, because it started with her with something very, very spiritual and close to her heart, and then we all added
brought in
things.
Donna's
And
crystals and my oils, and you know, it was,
there's just something about that. You know, there's just something about that when you're sharing things with sisters of your circle. Good. It's just, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's nice, and I think
it's really making me itch to do another.
I know,
one. It really is.
I know, me too. I'm like, how can we get this going today?
I know.
Yeah, but I think we got to do it again. It feels like it's time. And it is a nice. I think you really do want to get on a monthly routine with it, because as soon as you start the cycle of like, oh, let's just skip this month, you might as well just stop, because that's honestly what ended up happening with us. Was like life got in the way, and then we were getting like, oh well, only 2 or 3 people could go, so then it was just like, well, let's just skip this month, but then it ended up just fizzling out altogether. And I think that you kind of have to, you make a commitment, and you need to you need to
and I know it's something that I really looked forward to every month, and then if we canceled it, it was very disappointing. But I think also rotating
maybe you make
houses.
the agreement that like, okay, well, even if there's only 2 that can do it, you just do it.
Yes,
you still do it.
And I think that's what happened. Yes, I do think that's what's happened. And we were a small group to begin with, and then when you have like 2 people that can't make it, it's like, but it doesn't matter. Let's still do it. You know, let's still do that. And I think rotating homes is probably a good thing too. We were pretty much doing it at one person's house, and I think rotating is probably a good thing, so that it's, you know,
everybody feels equally invested.
Exactly.
It comes back to that same thing of feeling equally invested in the group. And I think that was like a really good learning way to do it.
It was, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing, and they can. I think our next one will be even better. I really do. I think our next one will be even better. And you can even, you know, like everybody, you know, so like, you know,
and some of these girls may be watching this, so I hope they feel the same way that was. I think so.
I think so. I think, you know, and if you have things like readings and something, you know, if somebody can do readings or something for everybody at a circle, you can. There's just so many things that everybody can contribute. I think it's.
Even if you don't think you have something that somebody wants to learn, you do.
You
always have something that somebody wants to learn.
Yes, even if you're new, even like if you're a newbie at, you know, pagan religions and witchcraft and all of that, you have something. You're bringing something.
You have those fresh eyes.
Yes.
So like, it's nice to everybody has something to contribute. Yes. It doesn't matter.
And I personally love hearing what spurred people, you know,
to get started.
Yes, what finally made people go. And I think that was one of the things that we did originally, I think, was kind of going around talking about our experiences in organized religion, in churches, and what was our you know our breaking point, or I don't know, you're going to call it a breaking point or a starting point, where we went, no, that's not for me.
I think starting point is a more positive way.
Probably, yes.
To put that. But yes, I think everybody had some sort of like disenchantment with organized religion that brought them to this part.
Yes. And I think that's a fresh way to start out, like a new moon circle too.
Yeah.
So yeah, are we writing this down? Yeah.
We can go back and watch our own video.
Yes, this is true. We can. Yeah, we're gonna have to do that.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Anything else you want to share?
I think that's it. I hope we inspired you to possibly start your own moon circle, or join ours if we can get it started here soon. In any case, we hope we inspire you to look out for more, getting more knowledge as far as earth-based religions. If you have any questions, reach out to us, as we always say.
We'll always answer. We're open books. And speaking of books too, if you just go on Amazon and you search Moon Circle books, there's 4 or 5 that pop up. They're like 80 to 100 pages. They're all different, but one of them is like the women's Moon Circle, and all of them would just be a good way to give you some guidelines too. So.
Yeah. What's our next? Do you have our next thing?
Yeah, we are talking next time about how to create a sacred space.
Yes, I'm so excited.
I've been thinking about that since we decided to do that.
Yes, I'm so excited.
I feel like my gazebo is a sacred space for me now.
Exactly.
So it's funny what. Anyway, so
and I'm going to talk about finding the actual sacred spot on your property. It's something new that I just discovered. Sacred space, no, but finding located sacred space, yes, on your property or within your home. That's a new process for me, and I really love it. I'm fascinated with it, so I can't wait to share that with everybody.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.